I don't know what I'm doing. Don't know what I'm doing here. Am I live? I'm live. Okay, let's see what happens here. Okay, share. Cancel. Hi, welcome. I do lives so rarely on YouTube that I'm just like, what am I doing? Am I even on? Am I live? When it started out, it was black and white. I'm like, oh my gosh, am I going to be in black and white? Hi, Megan. Hi, Brenda. Hi, Michelle. Welcome. Hi, Anthony. Anthony, hi, I don't know if you can you hear me? Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, Megan, it's been so long. I'm doing the rounds today, you guys, on my social platforms, talking about this, my book. The subject of the day. This is called Influencing Death, Reframing Dying for Better Living. Hi, Beck. Do I know Spanish? I do not. I don't. I took Spanish, and I really liked it, but I didn't do very well at it. And I wish I knew Spanish because I live in Eastern Washington and a lot of people speak Spanish here. But I wish I did. I can count. Uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco, seis, siete, ocho, nueve, diez. I know how to say huevos, and I know how to say agua. Never apologize for your English. At least you speak it. I have to apologize for my Spanish because I don't speak it. Yes, Randy is watching football. So I decided I would do the social media rounds today. Come on, all the channels, and see if I can't drum up some business for my book. Thank you, Brenda. Thank you so much. Hi, Elizabeth. I don't go live very often on YouTube. I don't know why. I feel like YouTube is supposed to be a little more formal or something. And a lot of times when I'm doing lives, I'm very informal. I just jump on TikTok without any plan. Your channel is a godsend. It really helped me when my mom was in hospice. Thank you, Riri. Thank you for saying that. And if you like my channel, you guys, you're going to love my book. It's called Influencing Death, Reframing Dying for Better Living. Sorry, this is backwards. I've never caught you live. Thank you for the work you do, Penny. I watch your content to try and get a handle on my massive fear of death. Well, Jaded, I hope it's working for you. I know it works for a lot of people, and it certainly has worked for me to talk about death more. It has really resolved my death anxiety. Brenda, you want to buy the book? Okay, it is available for pre-order right now, you guys. It is anywhere that you can purchase books online. So Amazon, Barnes & Noble, bookstore.com, Tertulia, Tertulia. And if you go to Tertulia and get it there, I think the link is in my bio on YouTube. It's definitely in my bio on TikTok and in my bio on Instagram. And if you go there and you use the code word hospice, it's 25% off. And if you subscribe to their free membership, it's 50% off with free shipping. So I think I put it in my YouTube bio. It's a little trickier to put things in your YouTube stuff. You're the strongest lady I've ever learned so much from you. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you so much. Is it on audio? I'm sure it's too new. It is too new. The audio, I actually haven't even recorded it yet. I'm recording it in 2 weeks. I'm going to be in the studio in 2 weeks to record it. And it will be released right around the same time that the book actually comes out, physically comes out, which will be January 14. They want to kind of try to align the audio with the actual book, the book. It's available on Kindle. It's available paperback, and it's available in hardcover. Or will be. It's on pre-order right now. This is the first copy. This is the virgin copy of my book, which almost got water spilled on it today, and I just about freaked out. Freaked me out. All right, you guys. So, thinking, one thing I've been doing is reading from my book on my lives. So maybe I will do that. Do you have a daughter that works in hospice? I have a daughter that is a social worker, but she does not work in hospice. She works with kids, and she works in a juvenile detention center. And my other daughter's in law school, and my son is, he's an IT guy. Hello in Columbus, Ohio. Oh, and then we have Better Days. We got a couple people hailing from Ohio today. Let's see. Should I read from this, you guys? Okay. This is, I think, a quick one. So just to tell you, my book is a memoir. It is about my life, my journey to become a hospice nurse, and how I became a hospice nurse. Oh, Mr. Funny Guy. There is a woman on YouTube that looks like you that was or is a hospice nurse. I bet you're talking about hospice nurse Julie. Because people keep thinking that I am hospice nurse Julie, or that we're sisters, or nobody's ever thought she was my daughter before, but she's literally young enough to be my daughter. I'm old enough to be her mother. So it probably was Julie. Oh, bonjour in France. Bonjour. Yeah, it's kind of annoying because, well, first of all, I love Julie, absolutely love her. And it's totally flattering that people think that I'm her, or that we look alike, or that we could be sisters, because I am old enough to be her mom. And also in real life, Julie is one of my besties. Like, I have been with Julie in real life. Like, we're friends in real life. I'll be seeing her in November. We hosted a retreat together last year in North Carolina. I absolutely love her. But then people think that I'm her, and they'll say, I've been following you for a long time. And they're not following me because they think they're following me, but they're following Julie. So you might want to make sure you're subscribed to me. Bonjour à vous. Thank you. Brenda, I love working on hospice. Is my passion, helping to transition, and for me is so intense, so special. I love that. When someone has Alzheimer's and starts talking about family members that passed a long time ago, saying you need to come home, dad is very worried about you. Is this a sign she's closer to the end? It's hard to tell with somebody with Alzheimer's because they do get really confused. There's probably, if they were doing that and they had more clinical signs of being close to the end of life, like a lot of weight loss, a lot of infections, they're on hospice, they're expected not to live very long, then it could be that they're close to end. But because of the nature of dementia, they might just be confused. Oh my God, I love your shorts. I've seen so many of them. What you do is amazing, and congratulations on your sobriety. Thank you, Crystal. If you like my shorts, you'll like my book. It's called Influencing Death, Reframing Dying for Better Living. And it's available for pre-order now anywhere that you can get books online: Amazon, Barnes & Noble, bookstore.com, Tertulia. Tertulia has a great deal going on right now. If you buy it there, you can get 25% off with the code HOSPICE, or you can get 50% off plus free shipping if you sign up for their free membership. Let me just read a little bit from this, you guys. So I'm doing this one because I want to share it with you. But also because I need to be practicing this to be able to record it next week when I do my audio recording, or in 2 weeks. Okay. If a person can safely swallow and indicates they're thirsty, like with food, we will never withhold something from them. As their swallowing begins to fail, though, they are at risk for aspiration. Aspiration is when the liquid goes down the wrong way and ends up in the airway or the lungs. At best, this is uncomfortable. At worst, it can cause aspiration pneumonia, which, for people who are ready to check out, isn't necessarily a bad thing. Ever heard the adage, pneumonia is the old man's best friend? Once we explain the risks, if a person is alert enough and can manage a sip of water, ice chips, or a popsicle, that is perfectly fine. There is also the option of thickened liquids, but we generally don't do these because gross. Thickened liquids are for hydrating people who are trying to live longer and who are willing and able to get past the disgusting, unnatural texture that thickener adds to something that is inherently supposed to be liquid. Again, dying people don't need those liquids as they are nearing the end. However, that isn't to say I haven't happily thickened a beverage when a patient requested it. Coffee, cola, and even one time beer, an IPA, if I recall correctly. But they usually report they are less than pleased with the end product. Sometimes a dry mouth can be mistaken for thirst. If you've ever smoked pot and had cotton mouth, you know that uncomfortable sensation. It doesn't matter how much water you drink, you'll still feel like someone poured sand in your mouth. If a person absolutely can't swallow or aren't very alert, oral care with a sponge on a stick, touthettes they're called, or a soft toothbrush moistened with water will be their best friend. Like those who got creative with the thickener, some of my patients have used those little sponges to moisten their mouth with non-water substances. Beverages with alcohol in them generally should be avoided as they are going to be more drying. But if a person is alert enough to ask for a little dab of whiskey on their tongue, do it. So yes, there is a risk of a person who is dying, their swallowing function failing, might inhale something into their lungs and develop pneumonia. But sometimes the benefit is worth the risk, such as when you are a dying old man and you want a popsicle. One morning I walked into the room of one of my new patients, Marcus, who had come over from the hospital late the night before. His daughter was with him and I introduced myself and greeted them. "How are you both doing?" I asked. His daughter got up from the recliner. She had been seated. Oops. See, good thing I'm practicing this. His daughter got up from the recliner she had been seated in. "I'm okay, but he would love a popsicle," she said, gesturing towards her dad with an outstretched hand. "I can get him a popsicle," I offered. "Well, the nurse last night said he can't have one because he might aspirate on it," she told me. I looked at Marcus and back at his daughter. I shrugged my shoulders to convey the unspoken message that we should give him what he wants. "He's on hospice," I said. "That's what I thought too," she exclaimed. I asked Marcus what kind of popsicle he wanted, and a few minutes later I handed him a blue raspberry as requested. Later I went back to check on Marcus. "How did you like that popsicle?" I asked him. He looked up at me with the biggest smile on his blue-stained lips. "So good." That is in my book, Influencing Death, Reframing Dying for Better Living. Available on pre-order now anywhere that you can buy books online. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, bookstore.com. Tertulia is an app, Tertulia. I think there's a link in my bio, but you can get to the app Tertulia, Tertulia, and search for my book, Influencing Death. And if you put the code word hospice, they'll give you 25% off. And if you sign up for their free membership, you'll get 50% off and free shipping. But you can buy it anywhere you want. Hi, Christine. Let's see. I lost my Aunt Linda unexpectedly 3 years ago now. She received 2 of the injections for COVID. Her husband said she reached up before she passed. Did she see her mom? Well, one, I hope that you're not trying to make the like association between the injections for COVID and the fact that she died, because that was pretty rare. But people who reach up in the air often are reaching, I think, towards people that they see, their deceased loved ones and even pets. Because when people express to us that they are seeing their deceased loved ones, which is common at the end of life, they're reaching up, or they're usually looking towards the corner of the room. And so I think that reaching is reaching up for those visions, spirits, if you will, that they see above them. Okay, Megan, do I have the link in there? Did you check? I hope I do. I hope I do. When I am on my deathbed, I am asking for every pain medication they have because I want to go out with no pain. Good for you. Yes, if you're new here, I'm Hospice Nurse Penny. I'm a nationally certified hospice and palliative care nurse. I've been a hospice nurse for 20 years, working in a variety of different areas of hospice nursing. And I am on all the socials. Hospice Nurse Penny is my username across all platforms: Facebook, Threads, which I don't post on, Instagram, and TikTok, where I got started. TikTok was my start. I hope I have a hospice nurse that lets me have good meds and a menthol if I make it that long. You know, thank you, Christine. Uh, if you want to smoke and you're not on oxygen, or you take the oxygen off and you're safe about it, we don't care. We don't care. When my daddy passed, he told us they were getting ready to have a party for him. He also looked at the corner just before passing and smiled. I know he saw someone, and I think it was his mom. I've heard that before, actually. I have had other patients tell me that there was a party coming, or that they were going to a party. Okay, thank you for that. The doctor told us she had a bad reaction to the injection. She did pass from the COVID injection. Well, I know there were a few people. I'm sorry to hear that. I just get because overall it was a very, very important, saved a lot of people's lives. How do you deal with all those deaths? How does it not drive you nuts seeing a lot of people dying? Because when you're a hospice nurse, you know that that is the expected outcome for your patient. And if you've done a good job and your patient is comfortable and they have a good death and the family is prepared and not scared, then it's a job well done. You know, it is the expectation. It's really actually a little more sad to leave the family once the person dies, because you have developed a relationship with the patient, but more so with the family, because the patient will get to a point where they're unresponsive and you're not conversing with them anymore. You're talking with the family. Sometimes that can last for hours, days, or even weeks. And so you, what was I going to say? Oh, it can be a little sad when the patient dies and you leave the family. But also, it doesn't drive you nuts because it's just such a gift. It's such a amazing honor to be able to be with people at the end of their life. Oh, good. My link tree is in my bio with all the links to pre-order, you guys. So if you go to my bio, all the links are there and you can pre-order on all of them. And again, Tertulia has the best deal right now. Like, they have a really great offer on it because they have an app too. So it's a new app. It's like a really, I don't know how new it is, but they're kind of new-ish. And so they saw my social media and they reached out to me and they were like, hey, we can put a deal on your book. And I was like, okay. But they've been written up in the New York Times. Like, they're a really like up and coming new online bookstore. An up and coming online bookstore. You guys have any questions for me? Any questions? Let me see what else is in my book. I'm trying to find the little stuff, because what I should do is read the cliffhangers. So then you guys will be like, I have to buy that book because I need to know what happens at the end. I'm on hospice now. Thank you for all your videos. They have helped me with questions I didn't even know I had. It has made this journey easier and I'm not as afraid as I was. Draco Mama, that really means a lot that you said that. Thank you so much. I'm really happy to know that I've been helpful to you. And you know, it's like you say, people don't know what they don't know. They don't even know what to ask. You know, when you're told that you're terminally ill and you go on hospice, you know, it's like, what do you even ask, right? So like, once in a lifetime event. Have I always been a funny nurse? Oh, I read Mr. Funny Guy and I thought it said, have you always been a funny nurse? Have I always been a hospice nurse? Almost. So I became a nurse in my 40s. I went to nursing school when I was 40. And when I was 41, so I became an LPN first. I went to a clinic and worked in a clinic for a year, and then I went to the hospital and worked in med surg for 3 months. And from there, I went into hospice, and I went into a hospice care center, and I became an RN. And I worked in hospice care centers for a long time. I worked in 2 different hospice care centers, so really like at the bedside, in your face, death and dying. From there, I went into home hospice to be a case manager, which is like going into someone's house is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Then I got sick of the commute in Seattle. It was really, really bad. I hated it. I hated it. I spent so much time in my car. I was getting like piriformis syndrome from sitting in my car for hours at a time. It was brutal. And you know, when you work with enough people who are dying, especially when they're younger than you or your age, you realize how life is very short. And it's not worth sitting in traffic over. So I took a position working in quality, and it is a virtual position. And I now only work 3 days a week. And I live in a cabin in the mountains. You can kind of see behind me, off the grid. And I will be retiring from my organization in April. And after that, I'm probably going to try to get a position doing per diem hospice nursing in my county. I live in a really rural area of Washington State, very, very rural. And I've always wanted to be someone that drove around in a beautiful area to go see my patients instead of being stuck in traffic. Have you ever had anybody get really mean or violent, like really go out miserable? Oh, I have had somebody get violent with me. In fact, let me see if I can find where it's at in my book. Let me see if I can find where it's at in my book, because it's good. I just was looking at it earlier today, and okay, this is a little part of my book here. Some may be surprised by this, but working in hospice and healthcare in general is not without risk of violence from patients. A hospice nurse must learn to manage an out of control patient and stay safe while maintaining some level of compassion. We have to keep in mind that our patients may have no control over their actions. I once saw Shannon sitting quietly next to an angry man with an altered mental status who was holding onto her wrist tightly while he yelled at her to let him go. "You're holding my hand," she calmly said to him, not even trying to wriggle away. Later, I began to put into practice what I had learned from Shannon when an angry dementia patient grabbed me by the lapels of my scrubs and began to shake me violently. I held his hands firmly and calmly told him through gritted teeth that he needed to let go of my new jacket. I had paid a pretty penny for my Grey's Anatomy designer lab coat, and I would be damned if it was going to get ripped the first day I wore it. The hospice aide at the bedside with me was incredulous at my response. "That guy was shaking you like a rag doll, and you were more concerned about your clothes," she said, laughing. She was so impressed and amused by my actions that she recounted the incident to anyone who would listen for years. The story of Nurse Penny's precious lab coat became almost legendary at the care center. So, yeah, I've had some violence. But I haven't seen anybody be violent until the very end and then die violently. I haven't seen that, thank God. Hope I'm not catching a cold. So I live, like I said, in a cabin off the grid, and we heat with wood. And so it's been cold lately, and we've been having a lot of fires, and I'm starting to get some like post-nasal drip, and it's making me cough. So that kind of sucks because I do need to be able to speak when I go to do my recording of my book in 2 weeks. I'm going to bring some lemons. Let's see here. Read some more. They won't be able to put it down, period. Do all people on hospice end up dying? Eventually. I've only had 2 situations where I saw somebody actually improve to where they came off of hospice and were no longer terminally ill. People do get discharged live off of hospice if they're not meeting the eligibility requirement, which is a terminal condition with a life expectancy of 6 months or less. And we discharge them live. They're still terminally ill. They're just not going to die as soon as we thought they were. But I have had two situations in my whole career where people actually improved and were no longer terminally ill. One man was, he had a stroke, and the other was a woman who had cancer that went in complete and total remission. And she was like dying. Like we thought she was going to die soon. And she just started getting better. And ironically, she came back to the care center a couple years later. And I was like, whoa, what are you doing here? And she said her sister got cancer and she was now dying at the care center. So she outlived her sister. Yes, as Megan is saying, I will probably be live more, so make sure you turn your notifications on and follow me on all my socials. I do worry about how it might be for me when it's my time, as I have arthritis in both knees and I spondylosis of the spine. I'm not 50 till next December. I'm not afraid of dying, but worried about the pain. So many people will say that they're not worried about the death at the death part or being dead. It's the dying part that worries people. What's it going to be like when they die? Is it going to be painful? Are they going to suffer? Are they going to linger? Is their family going to suffer? And so, you know, the great thing about hospice is that we really are symptom management experts. You know, there's not too many times when we are unable to manage physical symptoms. Now, people can have existential suffering, and we can't always fix that. But physical symptoms, we are pretty good about getting control over. And if worst comes to worst, then we can do palliative sedation and sedate people until their death. Okay, Elizabeth, you have a question? First, Michelle, off the grid. Wow, look at you go. Do you do any hunting, gardening, etc.? Gardening for sure. We have a few chickens, so we get eggs from them. We might raise meat birds next year. We used to hunt grouse. I'm terrible shot. I've never been able to, but I can field dress them really good. Since we've moved up here, we just have less of a desire to kill wildlife. You know, like we love seeing the grouse around. We used to feed the deer, and now that we have a cattle dog that goes nuts when the deer come around, and they're so annoying and they're vicious. Deer are very vicious. We might actually get to a point where we're like, you know what, maybe we should hunt deer. But we don't really hunt. But garden, yes, we have a huge garden. I do lots of gardening, lots of canning. Just got a solar freezer, so I've been freezing a lot of produce. I have heard several people say they were told that you don't have to be dying to go on hospice. They say it's just for people who need more care than home health can provide. Oh, man. I've wanted to correct them that the doctor must certify the patient is dying and the doctor feels she has 6 months or less to live. Yeah, you know, and unfortunately, sometimes where that myth starts is with the doctors that are referring them. And I've literally had patients who have said to me that the doctor referred them to hospice, because I will ask people, what do you know about hospice? Do you know why you're here? What do you know about your disease? And they'll say, well, the doctor said I could get more help if I signed up for hospice. And yes, they do need to be terminally ill with a life expectancy of 6 months or less. I do have an account on TikTok for my off-grid living stuff. I rarely post on it anymore, but there are some videos that are good. I really wish that I had more time to post on that, because I do think people would really like. I really I regret that I did not post, you know, like start when we moved up here, because or even before then. And I did do some videos, like some of our remodel and stuff, but we started with blank land, you know, and now we have this amazing cabin that's just beautiful. And my husband mills the lumber on a sawmill, and he makes the wall covering. Like some of it, like this is blued pine that he milled. That up there is tongue and groove that we bought. But then there's a big shop out there that he built, and you know, we have solar set up, and we've had our well excavated, which, you know, that some of those things are on my TikTok, but it's called building Smith Hawk Ranch on TikTok. But if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see kind of more about the off-grid stuff, because I do put stuff in my stories about my life. Is dying of heart or liver failure painful? Heart failure, not so much. Heart failure really causes fatigue, really, really bad fatigue. You know, like chair to bed existence, shortness of breath, sometimes pain in the chest. Liver failure is more painful. That can really cause pain because people get ascites, which is when their abdomen fills up with fluid. They look like they're 9 months pregnant. That's really, really uncomfortable for people. They get encephalopathy, which is when they get ammonia levels rising in their brain. So they're really confused and agitated. That's really hard on them. It's hard on their family. They can have a lot of pain, like liver pain. And they can get jaundice, that yellowing of the skin, and that can make them itchy. So liver failure is definitely worse symptom-wise than heart failure. My work involves end-of-life care. Someone always comes for them, which is reassuring. Yes, we definitely see that. Yeah, my chickens, Lyle and Julia, but now we don't even call them by their names because we got 2 more. So they're just chickens. We're just like chickens. Have you looked into freeze drying? Yes, make spicy deer jerky if the deer gets too spicy with you. You know, I used to dehydrate stuff before we moved up here because we would come up and vacation here in the winter, and sometimes we'd have to hike in because there's a lot of snow. So I would stock the cabin up, and so I dehydrated a lot of stuff to leave up here, and I would like preserve cheese in wax to make it shelf stable, and I would can dry meat, like dry sausages and stuff like that, breakfast sausage. I did all that. But I don't dehydrate anymore because it takes a lot of energy to dehydrate, and we are on solar and generator. And that would be the same for freeze drying, and freeze dryers are so expensive. I would love to have one, but to be honest, all I would ever freeze dry would be candy. Skittles, candy corn, like the freeze dried candy corn, man. I want to try that shit so bad. Do you think virtually all physical pain can be controlled well? In a sense, yes, except for that sometimes we have to resort to palliative sedation to control it. So sometimes we can control it, but the person isn't going to be alert anymore. You are the coolest. Thank you for educating us all and being so real about everything. Thank you. You can get a small one for like $2,000. As someone who also wants a dry candy, I think it's worth the investment. I don't know, $2,000, that's pretty damn steep if you ask me. That's a lot for dried candy. I'd buy freeze-dried candy on TikTok for less than that. Okay, so if you're new here, I'm here peddling my book today. It's called Influencing Death. I should have asked them to give me like a reverse cover. Influencing Death, Reframing Dying for Better Living by me, Penny Hawkins Smith, RN, aka Hospice Nurse Penny. This is available on pre-order now. Anywhere that you can buy books online. There are some links in my bio and my link tree, and one of the places, Tertulia, is doing a sale right now, 25% off with the code hospice, or if you sign up for their free membership, 50% off with free shipping. So that's a really great deal. It's also a little bit on sale on Amazon as well if you prefer Amazon. I love Amazon, and I buy a lot of stuff on Amazon. Thank you, Chicago Born. Yes, double click the screen to like the live. Thank you so much. I appreciate you saying that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let me see if there's another little short little thing I can read from my book. Okay. Oh, I know. I have a good one in here that I could tell you guys about. Oh, this is kind of a long chapter. One of the best chapters in here is really, really long. It's like the opening chapter, but it's kind of long. Yeah. So good, though. This is like the best chapter in the book. Oh, here. I'll take this. I'll tell you this one. Okay, this is about avoidance of telling people that they're dying. Okay, I stood at the nurse's station, matching the bubble package medications to the orders the doctor had written, before placing them into a brown paper grocery bag on the counter in front of me. I was only about halfway through the meds, a pile of medication cards still lying on the counter, when Raven walked up for our daily chat. Raven was a 20, and the backstory is in this. Oh, I already, okay, never mind. Raven walked up, when Raven walked up for our daily chat. She held a coffee cup in her hand and was wearing a fluffy pink robe that highlighted the youthfulness of her rosy cheeks. At 28 years old with colon cancer, she was the youngest patient I had cared for so far. Good morning, she greeted me joyfully. She was obviously in a happy mood due to the fact that she was going back home today. Hi, Raven. I was just packaging up your medications that you'll take with you, I told her as I placed another card in the bag. Raven scanned the counter, looking at the remaining stack of medication cards and then back to the paper bag. Her face suddenly changed from delight to distress. Those are all for me? Now she looked like she was about to cry. I was hardly taking any medications before I came here. Raven had been admitted to the care center just about a week ago to have her bowels managed. She had become so severely constipated due to a partial bowel obstruction and the opioid medication she was taking for pain that she'd required medical intervention to clean her out. After successfully treating her with a variety of medications, enemas, and finally manual fecal disimpaction, she was to be released home along with a pile of medications she was observing me bag up, which would prevent her from having more of the same issues in the future. Raven, I said slowly, trying to convey as much compassion as I could, which wasn't hard, because I truly felt compassionate towards this young woman. It's so important for you to be on a bowel protocol so you don't end up in here again. Raven stared at me quietly, her eyes starting to glisten with tears. I solemnly continued, The doctor thinks you have weeks to months left. Raven began to yell as those darn tears suddenly broke free and flowed with full force down those darn rosy cheeks. Good thing I'm practicing this. Weeks to months, she cried. Weeks to months? The doctor told me I have a year left. Goddamn oncologist, I thought. Time and time again, patients referred to hospice are told they are going there because they can give you extra help. The doctors fail to mention to the person that they are dying, let alone that their life expectancy is only 6 months or less. This happens with enough frequency that we almost always assume all patients admitted to hospice might not know exactly what it means. On one hand, I guess you want a doctor who is treating your life-ending disease to be optimistic for your best chance of survival. But there comes a time when it's imperative to replace optimism with reality. It's an injustice to a dying person to not be truthful about how much time they might have left. One can't work on a bucket list if they don't even know they are expected to kick it in the near future. I carefully tried to explain to Raven that hospice was for patients with a life expectancy of 6 months or less. Of course, we couldn't know how long she had, but the doctor wouldn't have referred her here if they didn't think that was the case. Unfortunately, that did nothing to ease her suffering. Eventually, I summoned the medical director and we held a case conference to get her on the right page. Dr. Sawyer was a hospice doc extraordinaire who started her career as a nurse and worked her way up to a doctor. The role of hospice doctor suited her quiet, patient demeanor perfectly. After their meeting ended and Raven returned to her room to finish packing, I apologized to Dr. Sawyer and was met with grace. It's not your fault, Penny, she told me in her soothing, quiet voice. This is what happens when we fail to address the reality of the situation. Everyone deserves to know the truth. If Elizabeth is still here, to your point, they're told they get more help. And you guys, this is from my book, Influencing Death, Reframing Dying for Better Living. Available now on pre-order. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, bookstore.com. It will be out January 14th. Pre-orders really do help a lot. If you want to get it, it's your best opportunity for a good deal. Tertulia has the best deal right now, 25% off with the code word hospice. Their link is in my bio. and 50% if you 50% off plus free shipping if you sign up for their subscription, which is free. My dad spent 20 months in hospice after a stroke. Is that unusual? 20 months seems so long. He is finally resting in peace. Yeah, 20 months is it's a little unusual. So 90% of hospice patients will die within 6 months, and about half within half that time, or within weeks is what I was reading when I looked at the statistics recently. So yeah, it is unusual. People do think, when they hear a story like that, they're like, but people live longer when they go on. People can live longer when they go on hospice than they would have had they not gone on hospice. However, they don't usually live longer than 6 months. Most people, the majority of patients, are going to die before 6 months. So it is unusual. And it probably did feel long, especially if your dad had a stroke and was on hospice. He was probably impaired quite a bit. And it's hard to watch your person go through that. Your book sounds amazing. Thank you for sharing some of its content. Thank you. Oh, Tahiris, thank you. My book drew you in. Make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube and get my book, Influencing Death, Reframing Dying for Better Living. It is available on pre-order right now for Amazon bleh. It is a bit, I can't even talk. It's available for pre-order right now on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Bookstore.com, and Tertulia. And it'll be out January 14th. I was told they didn't know if my granddad had a few weeks left or not. He died the next day, and I wasn't prepared. Maybe it's so hard to tell. I mean, it is hard to tell, and we do a pretty good job, but sometimes we're completely wrong. Sometimes I've been so right, it's uncanny, and people think I'm fucking magic. They're like, oh my God, how did you know? I'll be like, come over and hold his hand. He's dying right now. He's taking his last breaths. How did you know? And then other times I am so incredibly wrong. It's not even funny. It's a crapshoot. But there are some clinical signs that do let us know. I just always say, you know what? Be prepared. If I tell you that your person is going to live, I think maybe 3 weeks, they're not going to be awake that whole time. They're not going to be alert that whole time. They're most likely going to slip into a state of unresponsiveness. So, say what you need to say today. If your person goes on hospice and you're trying to figure out when to go on vacation so that you can see them one last time, now is the time. Now is the time. They're going to die. They're terminally ill. They have a life expectancy of 6 months or less. And again, 90% of our patients die within 6 months or less. So it's important. Can I write legal stuff before I'm in hospice in case I can't speak for myself? Example, I want meds, smokes, candy, no matter what my family might request. LOL. Yeah, I recommend 5 Wishes. Go to 5wishes.org. They have a really great booklet that you can fill out. It's legal in most states. You just need a couple of witnesses. Each state has their different requirements. Some might require you to get it notarized, but it addresses not only your healthcare advance directives, but things like that. You can write things like that in there too. How do you want your death to be? It's like a death plan. My mother was admitted to the hospital for a COPD exacerbation, went to the ICU on life support. She eventually was weaned off life support, left the ICU, even managed to come off high flow oxygen. She was recovering when her bowels erupted. They put her in hospice. She died 2.5 days later, a day after my birthday. We had no chance to adjust. Oof. Man, I am so sorry. That's terrible. That is a short time. Thank you. I am currently looking into becoming a death doula, and your book is a must. Adding to my shelf. Thank you. Thank you so much. Still hurts less than 4 months later. Yeah, well, it's going to hurt for a long time, Sarah. I mean, probably ever. And grief never goes away, right? We never get over it. We just learn to live with it. How sure are you that consciousness continues after a person dies? Well, I'm not a psychic medium, and I don't know, and nobody really knows, but I'm pretty sure. I mean, I really do believe that. Because, again, when people are dying, they see deceased loved ones, they see their deceased pets. I believe they're really seeing those spirits. And my dad came to me after he died, which is also in my book. That's in my book about my dad. You guys, I am going to hop off here, and I'm going to hop on to another channel, maybe TikTok. I think I'll go on TikTok for a while. So if you're on TikTok, follow me on TikTok, Hospice Nurse Penny. Otherwise, make sure you subscribe to me here on YouTube. Really appreciate it, you guys. Make sure you pre-order my book if you want, Influencing Death, Reframing Dying for Better Living. I think you'll really like it. If you like my YouTube channel, I think you'll really like it. And I hope everybody has a really fantastic day, and thank you for joining me. Oh my gosh, I just decided that I'm going to eat something before I go on TikTok because I'm starving. I don't know when I ate last. I better go eat something. Then I'll be on TikTok or maybe Instagram. We'll see. Thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate you. And I don't know how to get out of here. I don't know how to turn this off. Interesting. I think I just hit cancel. I don't know. I literally don't know how to get out of here. There's like no stop button. I'll figure it out though. I'll slide it up and it'll be gone.